The Inner Sanctum presents the Wednesday Whiparound.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Inner Sanctum. Today we're presenting you another edition of the Wednesday Whiparound, and I have two very special guests with me to talk some of the biggest topics of the week. I'm talking Stephen Paletti. Mate, Stephen, welcome aboard to the Wednesday Whiparound, your second week in a row.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be back.
I've done that many Whiparounds, I already don't know what's going on, but Maddie Irwin as well, welcome to the Inner Sanctum Whiparound, your debut. How are you going?
Yeah, good, thanks. Looking forward to it.
You've been a keen eye on the Whiparound, so I'm looking forward to hearing some of your opinions on the topics we've got tonight or today for the Whiparound. Let's start off with the biggest news in the AFLW. Darcy Vescio, the first AFLW player to kick 50 goals in a season. Matty, tell us about this fantastic milestone for Darcy and the story that they've had since the beginning of the AFLW season.
Yeah, so Darcy, they burst onto the scene, obviously in their first game. They kicked 4 goals in the very first AFLW game. So it just seems, fitting that Darcy's the first one to 50. So it's a really good milestone.
Stephen, tell us as well, this is a massive milestone in any sport, but for AFLW, Darcy doing this, no harm at all by kicking 50 goals. They've promoted the AFLW onto the scene and now it's gone leaps and bounds.
Yeah, like any time you can reach, 50 goals, like it's definitely a milestone to be celebrated, especially in AFLW. We all know the limitations of that competition in terms of games played and stuff like that. So it's taken place over a few years, but being the first to do anything is always going to be such an achievement, and it's fantastic for Darcy. They're going to go down in AFL history and always be remembered as the first player to kick 50 in the AFLW competition. So that's, anytime you can, put yourself into the history books like that is always a good thing.
And speaking of history books as well, Matty, there's a few milestone games for this weekend. A lot of 50 games going around now. We've had a few seasons of the AFLW, which means a few 50-game milestones will be reached. Tell us about who's playing 50 games this week and the impact they've had for their clubs.
Yeah, so obviously one of the biggest ones is our, first ever rising star in AFLW. So that's Ebony Marinoff. Obviously just continues to grow in the competition. You sort of forget that she's only about 23, 24 years old. So she's still got a lot of football, touch wood, ahead of her as a Crows fan. I hope that that's the case. And then you've got a couple of Brisbane players. You got Emily Bates and Ali Anderson. And Ali Anderson, from all I know, has done a lot in, also in the Indigenous space over in Brisbane. She designed the Guernsey for this year, I think, as well, the Indigenous jumper. So, some really, really worthy people, achieving the milestones this round as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when you've got someone like Ebony Marinoff, who's coming 23, 24 years old, she's such a young, talented prospect in the AFLW, it makes me a little bit jealous, to be honest, because I'm 25 and there's no way in hell I'm reaching 50 games in any professional comp. So congratulations to those girls. It's going to be a fantastic week. Stephen, let's move on. I want to talk about something you attended last weekend, which is such a special occasion for yourself, and not only for yourself, but for the community and for the Adelaide United and basically anyone in the A-League. It was the Pride game on the weekend. You got to attend. Tell us about the story and your experience on the game.
Yeah, so obviously Adelaide United hosted the first Pride games in A-League's history. The women going up against the Melbourne Victory and the men hosting Central Coast Mariners. It was an absolutely fantastic occasion. I wrote a piece which you can find over at theinnersanctum.com.au detailing why I felt it was so important to attend this game and detailing my experiences on the day and what needs to come next from the A-Leagues and the APL. Full raps to Adelaide United for putting this together. It's hard to talk about because that every time I start to talk about how good of an experience it was, something that we've been wanting for years, and it is well overdue that we finally got one. It's just the emotion takes over, and that the tears start to form in the back of your eyes. Your voice breaks a little bit. Like, it's truly just it was a momentous occasion. It was well overdue. I thought Adelaide United did a fantastic job, and I obviously can't speak for everyone in the LGBTQIA plus community, but I can speak for me. And while it wasn't everything I wanted, it was enough that it felt like a genuine celebration, that it didn't come off as tokenistic, that it was the genuine and heartfelt celebration that we all deserved. And then obviously I had a chance to meet Josh Cavallo after the game, and I got to tell him my story and how much his coming out meant to me, and you could see the genuine emotion on his face at that. So overall, it was an absolutely fantastic day, and I cannot wait for the next one.
It was a fantastic game as well, with Adelaide United providing the goods in the last 10 minutes. I think that's the 9th time now they've scored goals past the 80 minutes to level a game up or draw the game, or to win the game, sorry. And I tell you, the on-field performance would have made that game a little bit more special, considering the importance of it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was obviously there as a neutral, so I was not so much invested in any sort of result. I wanted to see 2 cracking games of football to go along with the celebrations. That's exactly what I got. The women made history by securing their final spot for the first time, and so that was something special to be there for. And a 91st minute winner, that's the stuff that dreams are made of, and it obviously puts a special cap on it that the Adelaide United sides are able to go 2 from 2 on the day.
Matty, tell us about your thoughts about the whole Pride game and Adelaide United putting on such a show on what was a special occasion.
Yeah, so basically I wasn't sure how it's going to come off. As someone that's not in that community, you always worry that it's not going to be, so it is going to be something that is tokenistic, and it's not actually, it's going to be shown as a bit of a gesture. It's not going to be shown as something that's, actually going to impact people or actually going to make a difference. So to hear from Stephen, who's actually taught me a lot in that space, that it was really good for them. It was really got the tick of approval from everyone I've seen. So.
Stephen, was this a stepping stone for probably other leagues and other corporations to maybe follow suit and try this type of celebration, or is this something that could be just collectively worked upon?
I'd like to believe that it's a stepping stone going forward for organisations like AFL with the men's competition. Obviously, the women's has the Pride round, but I don't know. So the problem with looking with the AFL men's and something like the NRL is that a lot of their supporter base is still very much 50s plus. Everything was better back in the 80s. Oh, everything's too soft now. You can't do anything anymore. This, that, rah, 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 rah. And so I think trying to do something that doesn't risk alienating a lot of where some of these supporter bases come from, because the reality is we know that, like all sports, it's money driven. And for some of the AFL and the NRL, like, they need to look at where their priorities lie, and for a lot of them that's going to be in their finances, and if they alienate a fair chunk of those finances, that's going to hurt them long term and do a lot more damage, unfortunately. I would love to see it happen tomorrow, and I absolutely think it should happen tomorrow. It's going to happen whether anyone likes it or not, but I understand from that point of view why it hasn't happened yet, and I can understand why it's taken so long for it to happen. And this could be a cynic in me. I don't think this happens this season if Josh Cavallo doesn't come out, which is unfortunate in of itself that it's taken a player to actually come out, like a male player. I need to specify that a male player coming out as part of the LGBTQIA community for this to happen. But the reality is that it's going to happen. Speaking from an A-League's perspective, this needs to be league-wide next season, whether that's a Pride round or if each individual team decides to host a Pride night next season. But it needs to happen, and it can't come off as tokenistic. They need to look at what Adelaide United did on the weekend and be like, right, this is the bare minimum that we need to do, next season when we're doing our Pride night. And so I mentioned, sorry, I didn't mention this in the piece. I've mentioned this in passing to other people. Doing something with the jerseys as well, like Adelaide United, it'll be fine for them to do the rainbow numbers and names and keep that. But if every club does that, that's when it will start to come off as tokenistic. It needs to be something else. Right, that's Adelaide's thing. I look at a team and I'll use the team I support, Sydney FC as an example. They have the sky blue jersey. There is so much that they could do there that would incorporate the transgendered flag in terms of designs and stuff like that, which is sky blue in its base. It consists of blue, pink, and white. There's so much they could do there in terms of a design that would show a genuine solidarity with the LGBT plus community and not come off as tokenistic. So I think that's definitely the next step forward. It's got to be Pride round or at least Pride games by every team, and doing stuff that's different to what Adelaide United did so that it doesn't come off as tokenistic, because that will do more damage than it will do good.
Yeah, very well said, mate. I think overall a pretty good successful day for Adelaide United, but a lot of work still to be done. And I think but to have that positive experience and also room to improve means that there's so much more to give. And I think overall it's pretty positive. It's great to look forward to for next year, for what other teams can maybe come up with, what the league can come up with, and be a bit creative, because to get the message across, you can't be always the same, doing the same thing. And that's the same with any topic in any situation of any conversation or any part of any community. So I look forward to seeing what happens. But yeah, as you said, a lot of stuff can be done, and I hope it does get done in the future. But there is another milestone this weekend that is coming up, and it's for the Newcastle Jets. It is Cass Davis, who's going to be playing 109 games in a row, which is a record for any A-League men's or women's player. How much of this is such a milestone, Stephen? Because this is something that I have just come across my desk myself, so it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I apologize. I may have thrown you under the bus a little bit there. It's taking place, full disclosure, we're recording on Tuesday night for a Wednesday morning release. The game's taking place right now as we're recording. So I apologize. I threw you under the bus. So that's my fault.
Oh, well done, mate. Thank you.
I genuinely apologize. Look, this is obviously a monumental achievement, 109 games in a row. And this feat is even more impressive in of itself, given the semi-professionalism of the A-League women's competition, previously known as the W League. The fact that the season has only just gone to 14 games this season. It's still not full home and away. So, this has been an achievement that's been over a decade in the making. So for Cass Davis to do this is absolutely sensational, and I genuinely hope that this is the last time we see an achievement like this have to take place over so long, just because it's beyond ridiculous that it's not full-time professional. It's not a full home and away season. like the fact that this has taken over, like, it's taken about a decade is not. It's monumental. So it's a key piece of the conversation, but it's not something that should be applauded because it shouldn't take a decade for this to happen.
Yeah, completely agree. Maddie, do you think something like this needs to be promoted a lot more? Because while we were recording, and it's happening right now, and I've been thrown under the bus by Stephen. So I just want to know your thoughts about this. Is this something that should be promoted a lot more and a lot more people should be getting around?
Yeah, for sure. I just think in general, like the AFLW is the absolute top sort of spot at the moment with the women's comps. But you've got the A League, you've got cricket, which does, have its own time as well. But a lot of the female stuff, like the women's sport, has got to come to the forefront at some stage. As Stephen said, the fact that they are semi-professional and they've had to, play so many games, and then you get so many of the casual fans just thinking, oh, why is it taking them so long? Because they're not playing the same amount of games as the men, and all that sort of thing. Just sort of can't wait for that sort of thing to happen in women's sport across the board. Even netball is sort of underappreciated by the vast majority of Australians. And I think it needs to be sort of more news. If it was something to do with the A League with the men's, I think it would be.
Yeah, completely. I mean, there's players in the AFL men's competition that would be playing consecutive games. Like 170 odd consecutive games was reached last year as a new record, and that was promoted everywhere. Or even games like 150 games for a footy club. Like I think Charlie Dixon for Port Adelaide played 100 games for the club not too long ago, and that was promoted like a big milestone. And you've got games like these that are 109 games in a row for any AFL, for any A-League player, and across any competition as well, is absolutely ridiculous. And for that to not be promoted is a little bit of a shame. So yeah, you guys have made great points on that. So hopefully, I think while we've recorded this, we don't know the result. I was thinking it's going to be this weekend, but thanks, Stephen.
Yes, my apologies once again.
That's all good. Speaking of this weekend, what is happening is the Australian tour of Pakistan. The first test starts on Friday afternoon, which is going to be absolutely amazing. More cricket, more test cricket, and our first tour for Australia in Pakistan in 25 odd years. Maddie, give us your thoughts on Australia playing in Pakistan. What do you expect from this tour?
I've got no idea what to expect, to be honest. When you put it that way, that 25 years, you just think, I wasn't really alive when the last, tour was played. So I just think it's really exciting. And basically, I don't really know what to expect, but more cricket's always a good thing.
Yeah, I was the same. I was probably born by the last time we probably travelled around Pakistan. So, Stephen, what are your thoughts on this one? Is Australia favourites at the moment? Do you think do we go through a clean sweep, or do we find this competition a little bit tougher in Pakistan?
I think it's going to be a little bit tougher. Pakistan has given Australia problems during games in the Middle East. And you guys are making me feel a little bit old here at 28. I was alive the last time Australia toured Pakistan, even if I was only a young whippersnapper floating around. But it's like this. This is the sort of thing that will hopefully be happening more and more in the coming years as things hopefully continue to settle down in Pakistan. I think this is going to be difficult for Australia just because it's going to be unknown. Like, we know that the subcontinental pitches always favour spin, but you just have to look at how different a Sri Lankan pitch is to an Indian pitch, and then looking at that, it's going to be the same thing going back to Pakistan. Even though it's going to be the same type of dry spinning wicket, there's always little variations in every single pitch that make it different. Like, you just have to look at Australia's pitches. They're always touted as a batter's paradise because a lot of them are dropping wickets now. But the reality is that you still go to Western Australia and it's still a pace bowler's paradise. The Fremantle doctor that comes in and around that time of the afternoon always changes things. You go to Sydney, it's traditionally a spinner's Spinner's Paradise come stages 4 and 5. You know, so every pitch is always going to be different. So I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than Australia expected to be, and I certainly don't think there's going to be any sort of clean sweep on the cards here.
I think it's actually 16 years since we last played in Pakistan. I've just remembered out of the blue. So I think we were alive, Matty, but still pretty young considering it's been that long ago. But you're absolutely right. Long time between drinks, been playing in Pakistan. Let's get a quick tip around the table, around the Whiparound table. I'll go with you first, Matty. The series, who's winning and by how much?
I think Australia, but it's going to be pretty even. Just trying to think. There's 7 games, so probably 3-4 to Australia.
Stephen, yourself?
Okay, so I'm just pulled the schedule up so I can look at it. I think the first test is going to end in the draw. I think Australia will take out the second test. I think Australia will take out the third test. I think out of the 3 ODIs, I think it's going to be 2-1 in favour of Pakistan. So we're at, it's 3-3 now. And then we're at 3. I'm going to do math again. Sorry, I said. Forget the math. Forget the math. And then the T20, I think is going to go in favour of Pakistan.
If my math's correct, you've got Australia winning 3, you've got Pakistan winning 3, and a draw. So we're ending the Pakistan tour as a draw.
Yep, sure. Let's go with that.
On that note, let's end the Whiparound with the draw. Thank you so much, Stephen and Matty, for joining me for another edition of the Wednesday Whiparound. I look forward to seeing what you produce across the Sanctum for the next however long you are until you join us again on the Wednesday Whiparound. So thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Yep, thanks for having me as well.
You can catch any of Matty and Stephen's work on the Inner Sanctum website and follow us on all social medias as well. You can catch many of opinions across the Inner Sanctum. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. My name is Anthony, and we'll see you next time.